This is your boy live and direct in full effect out the 832. Y'all already know how Jimmy J smooth too. Um, I wanted to do a video on Colby Covington's comments about Brazilians. You know, I wanted to do a video on Colby Covington's comments about Brazilian being filthy animals. Now, as you may know, this comment was made over 6 days ago, from what I understand, and this is recently new to me. Now, the pictures you're seeing up are people who are Brazilian fighters, uh, people who fight in the UFC as Brazilians. Now, why would Colby Covington say something to that effect? Eh, the the shit is, to a lot of people, is just shocking for him to say some whole shit like that. So why would he say something to that effect? Well, the UFC for the most part have always been racist towards Brazilian fighters. The reason being is Brazilians, regardless of what people identify themselves as, whether it's Anderson Silva, as we see here, or Junior Dos Santos, as we saw there, or Amanda Nunes, who obviously is a mixed descendant, African descendant, as you see with her grandmother, beautiful grandmother, and as you see her with brother Michael Irvin. Brazilians are very closely related, are closer to the African phenotype than any other people in Latin America. Even with, as you see, Rafael dos Anjos, and as you saw Junior Dos Santos earlier, the most Caucasian looking, the most Caucasian and whitest looking Brazilian, somewhere down the line, there's a Negro in their family. Here go Junior Dos Santos with Robinson Coseco. I can't pronounce the name. I don't want to kill the guy's name. But Brazilians, the country of Brazil has the largest classifiable black population in the world. You know what I'm saying? And no, regardless of how white the Brazilian may appear to be in the eyes of a, and this right here is why Brazilians are highly discriminated against by the UFC. As you see, she said, "Back to my African blood, Eminata." And this is why Chris Cyborg gets hated on, because even though she could easily classify herself as a white Brazilian, her African roots is too close to the bloodline, and they can easily ridicule Brazilians. And another thing is, Brazilian is really a code word for nigga. You know what I'm saying? On the low, they use that in different contexts, but that's just a code word for nigga. And that was basically what Colby Covington was saying to Brazilians: "You filthy animals." He can't really come out and say, "You filthy niggas," so he gotta, codify what the motherfucker had said. See, this is one of the reasons why Chris Cyborg is highly hated on. Because Brazilian bloodline, no, regardless of how white the person is, that DNA is too close to African phenotype. The generations is too close to that African phenotype. I mean, you you understand? And the Brazilian bloodline is extremely close to that African phenotype, to the point to where UFC is going to do everything they can, or people, white supremacists, MMA fighters or MMA fans, are gonna always have something fucked up to say about Brazilian fighters because of the closeness to that African phenotype. And this is why a lot of Hispanic people get discriminated against. Even the Canelo Alvarez looking ass Mexicans is going to feel some discrimination because that bloodline is too close to African phenotype. And Brazilians are closer than anybody because even though they whitewashed or tried or attempted to whitewash Brazil in the early 1900s to the 1930s, you know, whitewashing with white looking lighter skinned Asian people and lighter Arab people, because they picked and chose who could come to Brazil at that particular time. Even though they tried to whitewash that country in the early 1900s, those people end up mixing and mingling and having kids by people who look like fucking Anderson Silva. Even a guy who looks like this guy, as we see on the screen, his bloodline, if you go further back in his bloodline, you know, probably to his grandmother or grandfather, and I could be wrong, but I can bet any kind of money that up to his great grandfather, you gonna find a Negro in there. That's just inevitable with most Brazilians. So, no, regardless of how white looking you are in Brazil, Brazilians, regardless of what you look like, even if you look like this man right here, is always gonna be a nigga. And Covington is gonna get a slap on the wrist for saying some hoe ass shit like this. And shout out to Coach Shelton Harrison for bringing that thing up, and I'm honored to talk about this subject. I hate that I gotta roast somebody, but, and I wouldn't say I would hate to have to roast somebody, but we do need to talk about these things. And I just wanted to bring up this because we have to understand what's going on with the UFC and other MMA entities and stuff like that. So whenever you hear somebody disparage a Brazilian, that's a code word for nigga. So it is what it is. And again, shout out to Coach Shelton Harrison for bringing this subject up. And you're live and direct in full effect after 832. Y'all already know how Jimmy J Smooth do. Peace out.